All right, just a quick recap again on what we've done so far. I'll just undo what we've got here, and then we'll take the step one after the other. So first, in order for you to start working on any document or applying style sheets, you should have an HTML file and its content. And the next thing you want to do is to bring in your formats, which is your templates, which you can see right on your screen. And because we're working on introduction to CSS, I would give it a title of introduction to CSS. And this you can find if you when you refresh this page, you find it up there. And if we move a step further, I would write my first H1 content, which is heading 1, and heading 1 on its own is fine. But now let's talk about CSS now, which is the focus. But because if we want to use CSS, you need to apply it to an HTML, which is the basis of the reason why we have got HTML template ready. So now moving it on, now for you to write a style sheet. Remember I said HTML is a coding language, while style sheet is like a presentation of styling language. Like styling language is a presentation language. So now we know we have an H1 tag, which you can see right here. H1. Oh, why is this lagging? We have an H1 tag, which is holding this together, which is right here. You see that is highlighted H1 tag. So now for us to assign value to H1 tag, you first pick the selector, and the selector is right there that you have there, which is H1. But then I try to explain that as a selector, and then we have the curly braces, which is like a angle bracket. It's not like angle bracket, but we call it a curly bracer because of the nature. And then we have the font size of 12, which you won't see visible because by default each one has got its own value. But if it is a class that you assign to each one, then it can change. We'll get there later. So now I've given this value to each one, and then say okay, font size here is our property, font size, property, font style, you get, and the value of the font style of the property will be written down here. So moving on, we've got the color, and then we can assign it the value of blue, right? So that's one of the way. So you can see right here that our H1 has changed to color blue, so which is looking okay. This is one way of doing it. You can assign another property to it, font style, and say italics. That changes it. So now imagine if you have several content, you can imagine how bulky this space is going to be. It's going to be very bulky. This is one of the ways of assigning CSS style to an HTML page, but there are two other ways. The other way is to do exactly the same thing in line. So we're just going to delete this off, and we'll come to H1. We'll come to H1 and say style, and say color, and we'll give it, okay, you want pinky, and then there you go. Pink is not really very obvious there, but then it's pink. So there you see that we have the style, which is the same thing we'll put in an angle bracket, the tag, and then we have the, we didn't need to pick a selector in this case because it is already within the selector, which is H1. And now we have this the property which is color, and the value which is pink. So if you allow me to change this to something more pleasing to the eye, purple, or maybe we'll say
black.
Black is by default, so let's just pick blue violet. Yeah, maybe this. So now this is one of those things. This is another way, but it's not good. In fact, this is the most horrible way of writing CSS. This is called an inline CSS. Inline CSS. The first we did is like internal CSS, but the one I will recommend that you use is the external CSS. So let's create a file using our command line. Remember when I wanted to create the file index.html, I used touch index.html. What would I use next? Touch, yes.
Index.css.
Brilliant. That's going to create us. Oh, command no form. Oh, I spelled that wrongly. Sorry about that. And then we'll say index CSS, right? Yeah. So, and then you go. There you go. You've got our index of CSS there, right? So we're just going to take this off immediately. That's what we've written within this tag. So we are no longer using the inline CSS rules. So we want to use an external CSS. How do we do it? Precisely how you did the one for style internal CSS. You just say h1 curly bracer, and then we say what? You can use color, and let's say what color? You want pink still? Pink. You see, nothing is happening. Why? Because it has not been linked. So how do we link it? We come to the head and we link relative style sheets href. You can see it's already suggesting style.css. The moment I allow that, that's gonna come. Oh, that is index. Our file name is index.css because people often use style.css. So if you change the file name there to style.css, it changes too. So if we just come here and say styles.css, so this makes it reusable across board. So we'll come here, style.css, and then can we refresh? We should get a result. Oh, styles. See that? Yeah. So every little error will affect the output. So this is how to use this. So, but then let's give, because of we're using pink, what color will be good in the background? The white is not making it pop up.
Yeah,
black. Okay, so we have got body here, right? So let's go to the style sheet. Let's go to the style sheet and then assign a value, an element to the selector, a property to the selector, a style to the selector body. So we'll say body, right? Color bracer. And then what do we do? Color, right? And say we'll say about black. So we're not seeing any results. Why? Why are we not getting results?
We have to reload it again.
You sure? I don't think so. This is body. Okay, let's apply the same thing internal. And say style, color, black. Nothing is happening. Why? There's something we can do. You come up here and change this to asterisk. Will this give us results? It's still not giving us results. Why? Because we're applying it to a text. So you need to select background color. Do you understand that now?
Yeah.
So you come here, you say background color black. There you go. Okay. So color is different from background color. So you need to understand that. For you to see more of things like this, you can just, if you come to body and say Once you type A, it will list all the elements that starts with A, that's got A inside and all of those things. If you type on colors, it will tell you the different categories of colors that we've got, right? If you come to background, it's going to suggest to you the different kind of backgrounds and with an explanation. All of this if you're using a VS Code. But then that is how to apply an external CSS. So what are the three ways of applying CSS? We have inline CSS,
External.
internal CSS,
Yeah.
and external CSS. Which is the best?
External.
External. And after the external is what? Internal.
Internal.
And the poor and unacceptable one is what? Inline. Inline. Let's see. So yeah, you've got a question?
If you want to change the background to like patterns.
To patterns, then you can introduce the pattern. You can introduce an image. You can use image as a background, and you can say background image. You can see that, and then you bring in the image in if you have the source, and then you can select the source and all. But then that's not what we're doing today. So that is that about this. Now I've got something that tells me when there is an error. So I'm just gonna take this off. Remember, I have it external, so it's picking that up as an error. So I have to take that off, and then everything will look good again. See, no more error.
Yeah.
So I hope this is clear to you. All right. The next time we'll be looking at another way of assigning CSS rules, and that will be using the class system and then the other different kind of ways of applying CSS rule. So we'll stop here. Thank you. I'll see you in the next class. So, do you have any question? No question. See you in the next class. If you've got any question, drop it in the comment. Thank you.